All right, welcome everybody to our latest Between the Races podcast on the MXvice network. Thank you everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. We'd first like to thank our sponsors in Flight Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acerbis, AS3 Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, and of course Even Strokes for all their incredible support, as without them none of this would be possible. All right, for this episode, we have another cracking interview with special guest in MX2 ace and popular American rider Jack Chambers of Steve Dixon's Big Van World MTX Kawasaki, fresh from racing Madley based on the weekend. How's life, mate? And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, life's good, man. It would be better on a boat in Florida right now, but hey, I'm getting to travel the world and race my dirt bike, so I can't complain that much.
Yeah, mate. So the weather in England's just starting to turn a little bit, mate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some cloudy skies and starting to run some clear lenses again because the sun's not out. So yeah, bit of rain, kind of dodging the rain, finding some tracks and stuff. But yeah, it's all in fun and getting to enjoy it and have a good experience while at it.
Yeah, mate, it's awesome. You're making the bold move to come over, with Steve Dixon and the boys, and obviously the Zach Osborne influence. We've spoken a couple of times, and yeah, massive respect about what you're doing. It's really cool making the most of the chance and the opportunity. So, but I guess before we get into the rest of it, how was the weekend, mate? How are your thoughts on the track? Everyone loves it. Pretty cool, close to home for you, wasn't it, mate? So, wasn't bad. If you had the starts, I reckon you had the speed to run up there a bit more with those heavy hitters because you look at the lap times and the segment times and you're not really that far off, mate, especially in that second moto. So, yeah, just your thoughts on the weekend in terms of the track and the racing.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of debrief over the weekend about the race positives and negatives. Yeah, I mean, Saturday was awesome. I loved the track, was super fun. Still obviously takes me a bit to get used to these new GP tracks. I mean, I went out first lap and was right next to Kevin Horgmo, and he was triple in the rhythm section, and I was just like, dude, like I've been to the track to do starts before and seen it when it was grass. Like I know where I am, but like, yeah, it was these guys know exactly the turns on these tracks if they haven't changed in a couple of years. So I guess it would be the same way in the States if they came over there. But yeah, at the P10 in the quali race, I actually got a terrible start. And just normally my specialty, or I guess I would get lucky on the first laps. Just kind of slicing through people and just sending it. I got up to about 12th or 14th, and by the end of the moto on the last lap, I passed for 10th. So couldn't be too mad at that. With 3 months off the bike and really only 2 races before that, 1 GP. Yeah, I was happy with that and went into Sunday with, a bit of, I wouldn't say, confidence, but just felt like, I'm here. I ran the laps that they did, I'm not far off. So Sunday was all right. We were struggling all weekend, just kind of with bike setup, and I really haven't done any testing at all this year. It's just been tough with, I did not the first 7 rounds. I did 7 rounds. I started the third round of the series, and throughout the season, I was just trying to build the whole time. And yeah, I never really got a chance to just take a couple weeks and test and get the bike better. So I think we started back third round and then tried to work our way up through the season. Then got injured. So I'd say not too bad for coming back and racing there. But yeah, on Sunday, first moto was terrible. Just couldn't really I was all honestly locked behind somebody and couldn't get past them. The track was super one lined. Finally opened up a bit more and got a bit rougher in the second moto. Just struggle with bike setup and suspension. Really, I hate to be that kid that comes off the track and is like, my bike. But I actually went out there today on Matterley and tested on the gnarly track, and now we have a setup that works. So stoked on that and thankful for the team for being able to put that together. But yeah, then the second moto, I honestly did not know until like halfway through that I was in 7th or 8th place. Sometimes I just wouldn't look at the pit board, just hammering because I thought I was in like 15th. Like I needed to get to the front. So, which at that point you would think you'd look at the pit board, right? So somewhere in there it'd click, but no. Yeah, so I was just charging, and I know Kevin was behind me, like, pretty soon after the start in that second moto, and shoot, for like 20, 25 minutes, we were just hammering. Like I knew he was there, and I knew I had to go for it. I really didn't know. I knew I was in about 10th, but I was actually in like 7th or 8th. And yeah, we just kept pushing, and I'm just fighting the bike the whole time, and I was just basically destroying myself. And if I would have paced myself, maybe I wouldn't have lost those couple positions on the last lap. But I kind of just gave it all I had in the beginning. And I mean, I got blisters on my hands where normally I don't get blisters. So that track got chewed out. And yeah, I mean, it was fun. You know, I had a good time battling in the beginning. Me and Kevin actually went back and forth a couple times. I just kind of made a last bit of effort to stay in front of him. And at that point, you know, a bit embarrassing for me because, you know, once he got by me, it was kind of like I just kind of almost dropped the anchor a little bit, thinking that I had a big gap behind me and just kind of misjudged that. And but hey, we're here to learn and get better. And I think that with the circumstances I've been put through to come here and, you know, be on a Kawasaki, never ridden before. Obviously, I'm 6 months into this now, so don't have those excuses anymore. But, you know, lack of testing and all that stuff. I think that I'm honestly, with all that said, I'm in a good spot for next year, to be where I am right now, and to only be I'm technically at the bottom. I can only go up. So I think with a good off season of testing and some good training with Zacho in the winter, I can be, you know, fighting for podiums next year is what I want. So.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I guess they're not really excuses when you're so new to all this stuff in the World Championship, and it is a really high level, and it's a lot to go through personally, physically, mentally as well, mate. Obviously, weather, environments, cultures, there's a lot of changing going on, mate. So, and every weekend you're starting from a deficit because those guys have raced those tracks for years and they know the environment. Yeah. They know all the little details, the ins and outs. And I guess, how was the fitness? I guess you were saying the fitness is pretty solid, but the bike time was what you were missing. So to get 10th.
Yeah.
MX2 World Championship race with so many factory guys out there still, mate. And obviously Yago wanted to end off his MX2 in style there. So those guys were still pushing, mate, in the championship. You know, the positions under Adamo were up for battle. So, mate, you should probably look back and think it's actually pretty good in reality considering all you've been through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I come off the track and this weekend I was super thankful for my mom to be there as well as my sister. My dad hasn't been able to make it to any other races this year because he's still paying off the bills from all the American racing. So glad I'm on something now where he doesn't have to spend any money on me, and you know, one day I can give that back to him, and whether that's with a championship one day or, you know, I get to buy him something in the end. But yeah, super thankful for my parents. Really, honestly, this opportunity wouldn't be even possible without him, and same with Zach. But yeah, I normally try to, after the weekend, just, you know, look at it as a whole. You know, I'm still racing a dirt bike. I'm still walking, you know, breathing and getting to enjoy life and travel the world and do what I love. So I can't get too of a negative perspective on each weekend, and always look back on it with some positives. And definitely, you know, the positives can be, you know, obviously they sound like excuses, but to start out with where I was, to not have the testing and time on the bike, then get injured, then come back and still be fighting in the top 10 for positions. Obviously, if you go and look at my results, you know, on paper this year, you know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, write him off. But there was a lot of circumstances in the beginning of the year that are tough to really even still talk about. Like, it's just frustrating. And now I think we have it sorted with the team, and we won't have too many more engine problems. But yeah, that was kind of the gist of things at the beginning of the year, and I think that kind of just depleted me a lot mentally and physically as well. Just, you know, scared to ride the bike. But I'm in a really good spot now, and the bike is fast. It feels great, and like I said, can only go up from here, and I feel like I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, mate, well said. Obviously, a lot of growth and a lot of learning experiences you've got in getting out of your comfort zone and racing against these guys and traveling all these cool countries and seeing these tracks, I guess. Talking about tracks, mate, how have you found the track prep and just the tracks in general, the ones you've raced? Obviously, everyone in America and, you know, Australia and Europe, they all go on about how good Madeley Basin is. So how was it on the weekend for you compared to the other tracks you've raced in America and in MXGP paddock?
Yeah, so honestly, my two favorite tracks, well, there's three now this weekend, was Switzerland. A lot of people didn't like that one.
Yeah.
France, a lot of people didn't like that one. And Matterley. So I don't know why, but the common thing is that black gumbo dirt, which I don't ride, but it gets good ruts. For some reason, this weekend didn't get the ruts I expected. We had a lot of rain this week prior to the race, and I was thinking, there were some people running paddle tires in warm up on Saturday because they thought it was going to be so deep, but it actually dried out so much that they were putting water on it after warm up. So, but yeah, back to your question about the tracks. Switzerland was awesome. I loved it. It wasn't rough though, which normally I like the rougher tracks. With a good setup is always a bonus. This weekend I struggled with that. But yeah, France was good. I was P7 in the second moto. Chain snap, 2 laps to go. A couple laps. I don't know how many laps left, but yeah, just bummer results on some of them. But yeah, this weekend, Saturday was awesome. Obviously, it was overcast and the moisture was still on the ground and stuff. Super fast, like wide open everywhere. Which I don't normally like smooth fast tracks because like at the British race in qualifying at Monster Mountain, like I think I was like P7 or 8. I was like it doesn't matter to me for qualifying because I know that in the race the guys that aren't qualifying third and fourth aren't going to be up there at the end of the moto. So yeah, I tend to not like it when it's flat and smooth and just wide open, but I do like the faster style tracks. So I feel like it definitely lended to my style. But the prep for this weekend, I was told it was going to be rip deep and rip, watered crazy, and it just didn't form like that. And the States, if this was in the States, obviously the ground will probably be a little bit different, because the closest we can get to that is like Ironman, and I feel like it's a mix between Ironman and like Paula, which is complete opposites. But Paula gets those like chuck holes, hard braking bumps, but it has softer soil dirt. And then Ironman has that hard base where it gets blue groove, it gets chewed out. And that was almost like it's a weird combo to say, but that's kind of how it ended up. But there wasn't ruts down the straightaways. There wasn't many ruts in the corners. It was mostly one lined, especially on Sunday. And, for passing, that seems like it would be great. You don't have that many lines. You can just kind of go wherever you want, but everything kind of flowed in the same direction. Track flowed great. It was super fun, but yeah, for the prep wise, it was a little bit different than what I expected.
Yeah, it's pretty cool insights there, mate. Just hearing you, because obviously you've got some pretty unique experiences racing in the US and Europe. So no, I'm sure the fans will enjoy that, mate. And how's it been working with Steve Dixon as well? Obviously, the guy's a master on bikes, so much knowledge about everything in the sport. Must have so many cool stories. And also working with Courtney, obviously WMX champion. So pretty cool, mate. You have a good bit of banter back at the team truck, and just it's a good vibe going on there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, with Steve, I always just try to give him shit because he loves it. He feeds into it. Yeah, we're at the track today, and he's like, "Why are you going so slow in this corner?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're going like 3 miles an hour, like a granny." And I'm just like, "Oh, let me hit it again." So he gets his stopwatch out, and he's like timing, and he's like, "Oh, you just went a half second faster in that section." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Why can't you do that every lap?" So yeah, it's fun, especially with Courtney as well. She actually just flew back yesterday in New Zealand. But yeah, at the beginning of the season, we were just going to the track together and jamming out the music in between sessions. It was sick, honestly. It was almost like a moto vacation, just hanging out, which honestly sometimes isn't good because you need to be hammering. But like on these tracks in England, it was tough. Like you couldn't just go out and hammer motos because it was so hard, such hard packed tracks, and you got to make it to the race on the weekends for anything to pay off. So it was more just get the laps in and ride, and that was the toughest thing for me because I'm living in England, which is great. I don't have to change it or learn a new language, obviously. And it's easy to eat, easy to order food, all that stuff, which would be tough in Belgium or, Netherlands or Italy or wherever else I would go and ride, which I have done recently. but I didn't get to do that at the beginning of the year. But yeah, with everyone at the team, it's a good vibe and stuff. So I obviously try to keep it fun. I like to play music in the pits, and not everyone is like in with all the American music and stuff. But I'm sure if my American buddies were over there, we'd know every word to all the songs and just jamming out. But I actually got Courtney on some Morgan Wallen. Do you know who Morgan Wallen is?
No,
You've never heard of Morgan Wallen?
no. I'm old, mate.
Oh, good Lord. You need to look him up after this call.
Okay.
It's country music, but it's not like, like real Southern country music or like real old, like, like old country music. It's like a newer style country music, but like all the kids in the States love him, and he's like I don't know, he's super famous and stuff. But
Okay.
we went to a Post Malone concert together, me and Courtney. Obviously, Morgan Wallen doesn't come to Europe, but if we're in I want to go to. I actually had tickets to go to a Morgan Wallen concert. My mom got me for Christmas, but obviously she didn't know I'd be racing MXGP, so I didn't get to go to that. But yeah, she got listening to some country music and stuff. So yeah, it's been pretty sweet.
Oh, that's cool, mate. How's the lifestyle been in England, mate? Have you enjoyed it? Have you picked up some hobbies? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time over there? And what sort of foods? And you adapted all pretty smoothly to it all? Any sort of key takeaways there for you?
Yeah, I just had some Nando's. Nando's is my new favorite.
We got that here too, so it's
Man,
solid.
honestly, I feel pretty lame being in England. Like back home in the States, like especially in Florida, like year round, you can just do whatever you want. Like I get done riding if I have a cycle or a gym, get that done, and I go to the lake, ride my jet ski, or swim, or go on the boat, surf, whatever. And then here it's kind of like, I get done with my work, I go home and just get ready for the next day, ride my bicycle. So I mean, I enjoy riding my bicycle to the mall down the road. There's some ladies there, maybe checking them out. But yeah, just I don't know. I feel like it's pretty low key. It's just a simple life here, and nothing really to get stressed out about, or just kind of easy.
Yeah, mate, awesome. And when you went back home during your injury recovery, must have been pretty awesome to catch up with all the family and friends, and they would have been so interested to hear about all your adventures and the racing and
Oh, yeah.
how all the experiences have gone, mate. So how was that, I guess, in terms of that, and also the process of the recovery? Was it pretty sort of just frustrating, I'd imagine, having to sit out when you're making such great progress?
Yeah, they're definitely sitting out with how much progress I was making, and just getting better each weekend, especially with France being, just a couple rounds, but 2 rounds before I hurt myself. But yeah, coming back home, there's a lot of family dinners and discussions about the future, what it looks like, and debriefs on the year, and honestly, like my dad has been, in the States, it was all on him to really kind of put everything together for me. Yes, I had a team and stuff, but throughout the week and ordering parts and stuff and trying to just save as much money as we could and still do it and make it worth it for me, and get me through the process of it all. So it's kind of flip-flopped. He was before pretty negative, always gave me the negative side, but he's just, he's obviously my biggest critic and also my biggest fan, would do anything in the world to help me. But now he's like such a fan of it. He loves it so much. Like he just misses it because he can't be here every weekend helping me. He's like calling me after qualifying, and I'm like, Dad, it's 4 a.m. What are you doing up? He's like, I wanted to see your times. I'm like, it's warm up, dude. It doesn't matter. He's like, well, I just wanted to see. I'm like, go to sleep. It's okay. He's like, well, how's your bike? I was like, well, it's all right. Like, it could be better. Well, what needs to be changed? Send me some videos. I want to see what it's like. And I'm just like, I love it, but like, he loves it so much, man. And I just want nothing more for him to be able to come to every race. But he's back home grinding it out in the summer heat, working his ass off. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate to have two parents that love me and can just provide like they did for me to get where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate.
But yeah, about the recovery and stuff like that. I mean, I in Germany, obviously, I was gonna race Sunday after I broke my ankle on Saturday. I didn't know I broke it. I knew I broke it, but like x-rays didn't show. And the guys were like, oh, it could be old. Like I rolled my ankle so many times, but I just knew something felt different with this one. I didn't know if it was ligament or, it just felt like it was rolling inside my boot, which is a weird feeling. So, yeah, we got a x-ray, and I have, doctors at my fingertips at all times with, everything I have in the States, and it's super easy and very fortunate to have that. So I was literally just texting my doctors, calling them, explaining how it feels and sending them the x-rays. And they're like, well, you need to get a CT scan in the morning. Do they have a CT machine? And they actually had a CT machine. So I got a CT scan, and it clearly showed there was a clean break right through the talus, which is the big center bone in your foot, which holds all the pressure and your weight from your tibia. And yeah, snapped right through. And I had already made plans to go to one of the sponsors of the team, actually Big Van World. He has a boat, like a yacht in Mallorca. And it was almost not going to work because I was like, I need to get home. I got to get surgery. And I actually looked at flights Sunday, weren't going to be able to make them. Looked at flights for Monday to go like just straight to England, straight home. And it was like 12-hour travel days, like 2 layovers. I'm just like, what is going on? Like, why are these flights like terrible? Like, so then I asked my mom to look. She couldn't find any. It's like, screw it. I'm going to Mallorca.
Yeah.
So I went to Mallorca with a broken ankle on crutches. We had girls on the boat. Like, it was sick. And then, yeah, so like literally right after I break my ankle, I'm just going out, go out on the boat, having fun. Like my mom was like, what are you doing? You need to come home. I'm like, Mom, I couldn't come home. She's like, yes, you could. And I was like, well, I wanted to go to Mallorca. Like, anyways, yeah, I mean, it kind of ended up working out. I wanted to get home to get it fixed as soon as I could, honestly. But yeah, it ended up working out. It was cool to go down there with one of the sponsors of the team. But yeah, came back home. 2 days later, I had surgery. And then obviously after that, everything kind of slows down. You really don't know what to do. And I couldn't walk, couldn't put weight on it. Man, I couldn't even move my ankle for like 3 or 4 days, like at all. And then you just get sitting in your bed, and your mind's running about negatives and what's the future gonna be like? And gosh, like, am I ever gonna be able to run again? Am I gonna just obviously I trusted the doctor and I trusted everything that the process and believe everything happens for a reason. But yeah, there's just everyone goes through it. It's just tough to have an injury, especially when things are going in a positive way. And yeah, I mean, 8 days later, I was spinning out on a bicycle, and things started looking positive and could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and started making plans for coming back. And then I started cycling outside, and then I started walking more. And then I was like, yeah, like I'm going to be able to finish out the season and, come back. And my original goal was to come back for Turkey to race the last 3 rounds. And then we just decided that it's not like I'm going to gain any more for one more round, and flights and getting all the bikes and stuff there and travel. And I had only ridden a week and a half, 2 weeks at home to just get back in the flow of things, and came straight here, went to Italy to test because that was not the test, just a ride really. It just before the first round at Majora that I came back to. But yeah, it felt like slow as it was happening, but when in the end everything always goes so fast, and you're just like boom, right back on the bike and ready to go. And I was told that my ankle would take I remember, I think it was, he said 12 weeks non-weight bearing, and then another 4 weeks until I could get back on the bike. So I'm like sitting in there, like doing the math, like, shoot, like, yeah, I'm not making it back for the end of the season. Like, there's no way. After surgery, he like lowered the time frame. He's like, oh, it wasn't as bad. 12 weeks, you could be back on the bike. 12 weeks. I'm like, shoot, that's Majora. I'm like, no way I could be back on the bike and race that weekend. Well, then I go in for a checkup, and he's like still telling me that time frame. And I was just like, there's no possible way. Like, I'm walking on my ankle. It feels fine. Obviously, I'm a athlete. Like, yeah. I'm like, I'm perfectly healthy. I'm this, I'm that. Obviously, I'm not going to argue with the doctor. But I had a lot of other doctors that I was talking to, and a physical therapist that I see honestly 3 times a week to get everything back. And that's the most, honestly, without riding, that I've literally just grinded it out, like through whatever pain that it was, and just kind of put my head down and just said to myself, I'm going to come back at the end of the season. Like, I need to ride, I need to race, whether I needed to or not. Like, that was my goal that I set in my head after I got hurt, and made it happen. So, yeah, thankful for all the doctors that I have and stuff. And for Zach too, like being able to use his tools and his knowledge of people that he knows is very helpful with his career as well. So
yeah, it must be so cool having someone like him in your corner, and also all the family, friends, doctors, and also your mindset's obviously pretty good, mate, to keep in a positive, space, because it's not easy in those situations, I'd imagine, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, doing all you've given up so much. But I guess looking at some of the tracks you missed, I guess you're pretty comfortable in the sand, aren't you, mate? So you wouldn't have minded hitting up Lommel. And also, when you actually got back to the racing, how was Majora? Obviously a special place, a lot of American history there as well, mate. Did you find it as amazing as it always seems to be, looking in? What were your thoughts on those couple of things?
I think it would have been really amazing if they put an umbrella over the track before the weekend. But good Lord, it was so muddy on Saturday, and even into Sunday morning, it was still pretty muddy. Track, I assume it broke down differently than it would have if it was a normal prep weekend. But yeah, it just got super chewed out, and the hills were fun, and everything was good. I think the second moto I finished 12th. And yeah, that it wasn't a terrible weekend to come back to racing. Obviously, with how many rounds I missed, I was kind of back, almost like a restart for me being at the races again. We just took the van down there to keep it simple, and luckily we did take the van because of how much rain there was and stuff. And obviously the paddock was perfectly hard, but would have been a lot of work for the team with Matterley running this weekend as well, like to have the team and everything go down there in the truck when it has had to be at Matterley for setup and all that. So, but yeah, I honestly don't know all of the history at Majora. I've obviously seen tons of videos and stuff, and it's been there for a long time, and I'm sure Steve's raced there, of his 34 years of career, he's been running the team. I'm sure he's ran there 700 times, but, yeah.
It's got a special aura about it, mate, like a cool vibe about it. A lot of the riders say they sort of feel that sensation when they go in there. It's sort of history. And did you get that, mate?
Yeah,
or not?
it's cool, honestly, because it's small. Like, it's not like a huge place. Like, Matterley's huge. But this place was kind of small. It just said, like, everything about it just says Italy. Like, Italy, like, there's tiny cars. There's just tiny little nook places that you never think about. They're, like, super nice areas. And, yeah, it was cool. The fans were amazing. And I was sitting on the line in the second moto and actually saw a couple American flags out there on the start line. So I was like pumped up. I was like, let's go. Like, my fans are here.
No, that's awesome, mate. And just how the sand skills coming along. Obviously, you're pretty comfortable in it. You missed Lommel, but did you sort of get to Belgium a bit and do some training and just refresh the skills there as well?
Yeah, that's the plan for next year. We're definitely going to get to Lommel. I mean, obviously, that's the track they race on. It doesn't break down like it does at the race. Normally in the week, as I've heard. Obviously, it's still Lommel. It's still bottomless sand. The closest thing we have to that is still not Lommel spec in Florida, but we have this place called Croom that when it rains, Alden's guys go there still, and some of the other boys that train there in Florida go. But yeah, that's the closest thing we have to Lommel. So I'm definitely gonna have to get out there and get comfortable on that stuff. I love the sand. I actually have never raced Southwick, which I wanted to really do this year. I was looking forward to it because last year I got injured. I raced 2 rounds of outdoors last year and got hurt at the third one. Tore my ACL, so I really haven't had much outdoor riding at all. The most I've ridden outdoors is this year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Lommel next year. A lot of people probably would think I'm crazy for looking forward to that race, but like just the experience and just like I want to get my ass kicked in the sand so then I know like what do I need to work on? What do I need to do to get better for the next season? I'm bummed I missed it this year for that experience and knowing when I go back that what lines create and just how the track flows. But yeah, it's part of it. So
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to look forward to, mate. And obviously you're confirmed to be doing MX2 again next year. And I guess the future is at the moment staying in the World Championship for the foreseeable, mate. It's pretty exciting what you're doing. And I bet, a lot of fans in America are definitely following the GPs because you're in it now. So that's pretty exciting. Have you got lots of good messages from the fans and support from back home following your
Yeah,
progress as well?
yeah, it's been cool. Obviously, I'm not like, top guy or winning races and stuff, so for them to be like super pumped on me racing, and obviously the results this year aren't what I expected, but yeah, looking forward to getting this off season to go out in next year, and maybe have some more American fans come over to watch me race because they want to see me win. So that's what I want. That's what I'm just gonna strive for, whether it takes another year after this year or not. But that's the end goal. Obviously, that's everyone else's goal on the line too. So, but I wouldn't say I'm gonna be too far off. Obviously, there's a lot of things I got to clean up and just kind of hammer it out this winter. But to be running where I am right now, beating race winners, running with race winners, and still having lap times to run up front. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and everyone's obviously just trying to find their best way that fits them to put it all together. And just like Horgmo had that weekend in Turkey, he put it together and he got a race win. And same with Gifting, he led 9 laps there. So all the boys have been on it, but it just whoever's got that much more on Sunday.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be really cool. And obviously, what's your plan like leading into the Motocross of Nations with Puerto Rico? Really exciting opportunity. I remember we spoke earlier in the year about how you were with Team USA last year with the Red Bud and the Lawrence brothers, hanging out with them because you're mates with them, and you were sort of in and around the teams, sort of 1 foot in each camp, I guess you could say, mate. So how much are you looking forward to actually racing it this year? It's going to be amazing there. The chainsaws, the flares, everything.
Oh yeah.
Bonfires, mate. You should be in for a real treat there at Ernay.
Yeah, it was honestly like I guess I kind of took it for granted last year a little bit, being that it was at Redbud. I've been to Redbud before. I've seen those, not that amount of fans, but obviously Redbud every year is huge. People have the train horns, and we don't have as many chainsaws in America. I'm not sure why we haven't got there yet, but just the horns and just some little squeakers out there, but they're making noise. But yeah, it'll be insane. I'm glad to be on the track this year instead of just standing in the pit box with the GoPro for Jet last year. But yeah, looking forward to it. And I'm basically racing all the same guys I race every weekend and on the same starting grid and everything. So I'm comfortable with it. And I'd rather be doing what I'm doing now in Race Nations than start kind of like I did at Switzerland. Man, at Switzerland, I was going on the track at the wrong place. I was missing what time I needed to be up there. And so, luckily the schedules are pretty similar. Obviously, it's still completely different with being that there's 3 classes and 3 races, and then the combined, and everything will also be a lot quicker than a normal weekend. We have that hour in between each moto on Sunday. So, I get food, I take a nap sometimes, and, just kind of chill out. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, well, all right, it's time to go. Like, just kind of relax. But, at the States, like, you're come off the moto, you don't have time to shower or anything. Like, you get off, straight in the ice bath, out, dry off, gear back on, goggles ready, get your water, go up to the line. Like, it's just so fast, so rushed, so quick. But that's how they can do it in one day. So I definitely think the 2-day event, I mean, I've ridden technically, how many rounds did I do? 7. I've done 9 rounds of GPs this year. I think so. I did 7, got hurt, and then came back and did 2. Yeah. So 9 rounds of GPs this season. So I basically did 18 rounds of US outdoors in my mind. Like, I did 2 days each weekend. Obviously the Saturday at a GP, you don't have 2 races, but you still have a warm up quali. In quali, you're pretty much sending it for, at least a total of 15 minutes. And then the qualifying race is still 25 minutes. So, obviously you have a little bit more longer motos than Saturday in the States, but I think that's the difference of a lot of the reason why the guys that come from here and go to the States just have that extra bit. And, I wouldn't say more endurance or more fitness. Like, everybody's going to be at the top of their game, and their fitness is going to be the best it can possibly be. But to go through, And to be able to manage a weekend is tough as well, Like I've had to focus more on just doing enough laps to get a fast lap in qualifying, because I would just go out and race the time qualifying, never come in, never change any clickers, never come in for, hey, what segment am I slower in? Like, where do I need to pick up? Like, those guys do a couple of laps, get their time, they come in, sit there for a couple minutes. All right, track's forming up a little bit more. Maybe they overwatered at the beginning. I'll let the track, break in a bit. Go do my fast lap, the very last lap. I'm just out there like hammering. And then qualifying race, and then I'm smoked. So I just had to learn things to realize. So is that knowing that now and learning from that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, mate. And how have you found the qualifying race format? Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about it with the points now being included this year. Have you found it a good little warm-up, I guess, on the Saturday? It's kind of like, say, having an extra moto, really, isn't it? Because it's pretty intense and everyone's going at it for those points. So what's your take on it? And I guess what's the opinions you've heard about it from, I guess, Steve and everyone around?
Yeah, I mean, well, every time you line up behind a gate, everyone's going to go. Like, you can say, oh, it's just a qualifying race, I'm going to get where I get. But, like, we're racers at heart. Like, I've said so many times that coming back from injury to my parents, oh, I'll just go ride, I'll just go easy. Like, you're going to go out there and send it no matter what. And if you're in 12th and you have expectations of being 5th, you're going to send it. So, yeah, definitely. It's good, honestly. Gets me that extra time. And I feel like I'm, obviously those guys, they're not making anything up. They've been there this season. Obviously, there's been guys with injuries. But I think a lot of the injuries this season have come from, how long the season is, how much we're riding, how much we're racing. And to be honest, it's a lot different than a normal training schedule in the States. Like, if I were to race in the States, you'd fly in Friday morning or Thursday night, race your race on Saturday, maybe get a Saturday night, or most of the time, Saturday's your rest day, Tuesday to ride if you want, but you can ride Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, race again on Sunday. Here, you're racing 2 days on the weekend. You're going to take Monday off for sure. And then you're going to ride Tuesday, maybe Thursday, depending on how far the flight is to the next race. And, you may get 1 or max 2 days riding during the week. So it's not like you have a lot of time to make changes, adjustments, get used to something else, and then go and perform on the weekend. So it's a lot of managing. And just my opinion from what I've heard, I don't know Hurling's training schedule, but from the outside, really looking in, I've heard that he rides so much, and that's great. Like, good on him. But to ride that much for me during the season and to be able to go to the races and perform at my level and where I am, how old I am, I don't feel like it's reasonable. I'd go into the weekends completely drained, and to be honest, I feel like that, lends more for injuries, and he's been hurt a lot. So I don't know if those really match up, or somebody could be listening to this and be like, no, you're completely wrong. But it's kind of my opinion. And Prado, I mean, this year he really just kind of, just like Dunge in the States, just really just kind of was so consistent. And he maybe not won every round, but he was on the podium, I think, every round, but maybe one, or even every week, every race. So that's just what it takes. And same with Adamo. Look at the 2 guys that won the championship. They were there at every round. So that's definitely something that Zach can help me with, the managing and just day to day, week to week, race to race type stuff. So I think that's really big and a lot more important than the States, being that the States is 2 different disciplines, supercross and motocross.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you make there, especially about Hurlings, because obviously he wanted just to get all those races and gate drops in as much as possible. He was racing in England, France, back home. He was doing every little race he could, and he trains like an absolute animal too. And it's just sad seeing all those injuries, but I guess he feels as though he needs to do them. So, and obviously it does put himself elevated level.
And for some people, that works, and that's just the way they're used to it. That's just the way they are. And I think for someone like me, obviously I'm young. I can probably put myself through it, but how long is it going to last? How long can I make it? Can I make it to the whole season while doing that? So, but then there's that also, that doubt you can put in your mind by thinking you're not doing enough laps. He shows up at the races every weekend, and he knows he did the most laps this week. He put in the most hours. He put in the most work. why can't I win? You know?
Yep.
So then there, if someone like that maybe isn't riding as much in the week, they have that self-doubt, whether it's they're doing the right thing and Hurlings isn't, or vice versa. I think that is something to really weigh out for me for next year. And like I said about the qualifying races, just managing the weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, mate. Yeah, well said. It's also like mental edge, I guess. You hear guys like Floyd Mayweather say they like training at 3 a.m. because they're putting in work where everyone's asleep. And I guess trying to put the impetus back on their rivals to make them get some doubt going, like you said, mate. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
And yeah, just your thoughts on, what the next steps are for you, I guess, in terms of, beating these guys like Adamo. Obviously, Yago's leaving, but Simon Lagenfeld of the Conan brothers, De Wolf. There's so many guys in there. And I guess even just watching guys like Prado and Febvre are the key things you learn, because there's a lot to take in from how those guys do everything from manage to race to technically. There's so much, isn't there, mate?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that at, someone like Prado's level, he's been doing it for enough time. And I was at the awards the other night and just listening to him, to what he was saying. Lisa asked him, what can you attribute this to, and how have you been able to be so consistent this year? And he hadn't been so consistent in past. He's learned from it. He's had the experience. And for someone like me with no experience, or someone like, the Conan brothers, they've been racing the MX, but they haven't been in the MX2 class. They haven't had as many rounds. And obviously Lucas is super fast. But yeah, he just had some inconsistent results this year, and same with me. So we're young, we're learning, and I think Prado just and same with Jet. Honestly, like I wouldn't say they had a head start, but like they're just a step ahead, a step ahead of everyone else in their schedule and their maturity of riding. And yeah, I think for me, my plan is just, it's definitely not to stay, in the same spot I am and just kind of manage, because if my dad's favorite saying is, you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting.
Yeah.
So, just got to add more to it and just keep grinding and just, keep climbing up that ladder. I was texting Zach earlier today about it, and I was telling him, what my goals are for next year and stuff. And he's like, before any of that happens, you got to get a top 10. You got to get a top 5. You got to get some podiums. And then comes a sprinkle of a win. Or like Conan, had that win in his hand. And then, whether his chain broke or, he tucked the front or, whatever it is, like have those moments of, glimpse of hope. And then you're like, trying to grab onto it. And like, once you finally do, like Prado has done, getting the experience and stuff like that is just, you can see it at any supercross race you watch. I feel like it's the most evident there. You see a guy go and win. He gets the red plate. He goes and wins the next round. He goes and wins the next round. He gets second at the next one. And he's just like on a roll, on a roll, on a roll. And Zach and I have talked a lot about that as well with, trying to manage the highs and lows of it all, and being that, you say I go in this weekend and got third. Yeah, sick. My ended my year off awesome. And then go to Nations and get 15th and beat by all those guys, or, whatever that is. And then it's like, what am I doing? Like, just like Conan this weekend, I think he finished 12, 11, like right behind me in the second moto. And, he's probably scratching his head. Like, what went on? Like, I was winning races earlier this year, and it's hard to manage. Like, just, it's so much about just being able to manage the year. I know I keep saying that, but like, that's just the biggest thing. And for me, I'm not saying this by any means from experience, but just from seeing it all and listening to the guys, and I like to learn and observe on a lot of that stuff. And, I don't mind following, my opponents, and, whether I'm seeing what they're doing or anything like that. Like, I've got to learn somehow. What are these guys riding? What are they doing during the week? I'm new to this, for GPs and for racing pro in general. So
yeah, that's really cool, mate. I guess Prado only won 2 overalls, I believe, this year. So it sort of shows a testament to what you're just saying. It's like, you just got to be there. And Adamo, he was there, wasn't he? He stayed fit, he stayed healthy, he kept grinding, kept picking up the results, avoided injury. And that's half the battle a lot of the time, isn't it, in motocross? Because it's pretty brutal. It can catch you just like that. And there's nearly 20 MXGP rounds and 31 races in America. There's just so much racing. You're seeing guys getting injured a lot. Do you think there's too much racing even maybe, mate?
I don't know if it's too much racing, but I think that, back Steve's favorite saying is back in the day, or, back when I did this, back in the 90s. But yeah, back in the day when Carmichael and Reedy and Stu were all, right before their time, when they came in, it changed a lot. And especially with RC being that, training and kind of changing the sport, and same with Stu and Reed, like all those guys just took it from, the level of when, Jeff Stanton was riding and Emig and, Ferry. That was kind of like just the time right before, the Reed, Stu, and, those guys kind of right at the end of Ferry's time and all those. They just went to the track and, race to race, went out partying at the night. And it was more like for fun. They were probably making just as much money as we are now, but like, or more. But they were just, it was more for fun. It was a show. It was just, the fans loved it. And now it's such, obviously it's a sport. It's such a high level sport. You can't just, I'm not taking anything away from the riders back then or the way the tracks were built. Obviously the bikes were completely different. They don't have the suspension travel and the engine's power that we have nowadays. But yeah, just the aspect of that is just so different for training wise. I think that it's completely upped. Everyone's training, everyone's putting in the effort. And if you're not on the gate. So
yeah, it's a high level you guys are operating at. And I guess, like we were saying, having someone like Zacho who's lived it and done it and won so many things and just achieved so much in the sport in both sides of the globe, I guess it's pretty cool. And I believe it's his birthday today, isn't it, mate? So happy birthday to him. And how cool is it having him in your corner, mate? Because that knowledge, you just can't buy it. You got to live it and earn it.
It's awesome. I'm not sure if I've explained how it all happened for me, but when I was in 2021 after Loretta's, I had scheduled surgery on my back because I had a bulging herniated disc in my L4-5, and they said the only way to fix it was surgery. And I was fully committed to the surgery, and who knows where I'd be right now if I did have the surgery. But I literally just DM Zach on Instagram. Maybe he'd respond, see my message. And I was like, what are you doing for your back? I saw that he had been in the gym a lot, or, working with this guy. And I asked him for, his contact and stuff. And if I could join him for a session one day and just check it out and see if it helps. And this was right before Loretta's. So I went in and had one session with this guy, and met Zach. Like, I'd never met Zach before. I'm sure I've seen him at the races, but, yeah, never met him before. And just like, what's up, man? He still says I cool guide him. I don't really believe that, but he says I cool guide him in the gym. He still says it to our trainer every day. He's like, yeah, this guy cool guided me when you first walk in the gym, but like, whatever. It's not like he's that special, right? Like, he's not like he's won 4 titles or anything. Like, so anyways, yeah. So, I had one session with this guy. I went to Loretta's. Well, Loretta's wasn't terrible finish wise, but I mean, I struggled the entire week I literally couldn't put my right leg out in the corners. Like my back was like a snake. Like, I don't have scoliosis, but like it induced scoliosis because of like my muscles just cramping up on one side. And like, I literally was so depressed. Like, it was such a bad time in my life, honestly. Like, it's just, even to look back on it now, like, I don't know how I got through it, but it all changed by messaging Zach and being like, what are you doing for your back? And I met this therapist. His name's Dr. Brandon Kallman, and he helped me through it. And since then, I've recommended literally every single person that I even come across or see that has a back problem, because like, to go through what I went through, I literally cried myself to sleep at night with how much pain I was in. Like, it was terrible. Like, obviously I never had like, bad depression where I wanted to kill myself or anything, but like, at times I was like, this isn't worth living for. Like, it's like, what? I don't want to ride. I don't want to do anything. Like, obviously I wanted to ride, wanted to get on my dirt bike, but it only made it worse. And finally got through it. Took about 6 months to get to where I could ride normal again. And then I was riding supercross training. And yeah, I've only had one spurt where I got back to close to where I was. And that was after I tore my ACL, and I had focused so much on my knee and not doing therapy for my back. But now I'm in a spot now where like I'm even with my ankle, like my ankle doesn't bother me, my back doesn't bother me, and so yeah, that's kind of how we met. And then literally after that, Zach was going to test for California for him to possibly return to racing, and that weird time where he was back and forth from retirement and racing, and I say he retired like 7 times, but so he was riding at my supercross track before he went to Cali to test to make sure it was okay, and then after he went to Cali to test, he made the decision to just retire, and they were going to have another kid and kind of change his ways of racing and stuff, and it's helped a lot because it's weird because we actually like switched roles completely. I grew up racing in the woods and doing GNCCs up until I was really 15. And then after that, I completely switched after I went to Monster Cup. And yeah, from there on, amateurs, and here I am racing GPs now.
Yeah, it's so cool,
kind of
mate.
a whole story in one.
And he's like still doing your programs, and you're in daily communication with him. And what does your training schedule look like in a usual week, I guess, in an on week and an off week? And is it hard to find tracks, I guess, over there that you actually enjoy and you find you get benefit out of?
Yeah, well, that's classified information, so I can't share that, but I'm just kidding. Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, during the week, it's just Mondays, normally a recovery, some sort of recovery, whether it's gym or stretching or yoga or just a cycle. And then Tuesdays, normally riding and some gym. Wednesdays, a cycle, or depending on how big the day was before, whether it was testing or not, like today was. Maybe a rest day, and then back on it on Thursday, and then just a spin on Friday before the races, spin on both days before the morning of racing, and do the racing. And that's kind of what it is week to week. When there's a weekend off, I obviously add in some more riding, a bigger cycle on the Saturday, as I would be, that same load I would have on a normal weekend where I am racing. So that for me, I have to do that much for not having an off season. And I did have an off season, but it was on Supercross. So the fitness is different. Obviously, you're still gaining fitness, but it's not more the endurance fitness. So because when I came back from my ACL last year, I went straight into sprint mode, like, qualifying laps, being able to go out and have the rhythms down and stuff like that. So, but yeah, week to week, he manages most of it, and we talk frequently, and it's just kind of like he's like my best friend now. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And I guess a couple more before we wrap it up, because it's almost got to an hour here, mate. I just wanted to get, your advice for any youngsters looking to, maybe one day, if they're in America or wherever they are, to race the World Championship, or if they want to race Supercross, what would be your sort of key lessons to impart onto them, mate? And I guess it's a lot of the cliches like hard work and be really committed, but what would you say is from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, if you want it, never give up, because there's opportunities like that can arise like they did for me. I never thought in a million years, literally. Zach came over for the Vet MX Nations at Fox Hills, and I went there to watch, and we're sitting in the camper together, just me and him, and he was like, dude, would have never thought you'd be sitting here at Vet Nations with me in England. Like, I would have never said that at the beginning of this year. And yeah, I mean, just for any kids out there that are, whether they're starting out, they've never ridden a bike in their life, or they're, almost to that level and they're just trying to make it, and say they're a 10th place guy at Loretta's, or even 30th. Like I was terrible at Loretta's. You have hope. Like there's, never give up and just kind of keep grinding. But there's also the aspect of it where a lot of kids, wear themselves out from a small age because they just want it so bad, or maybe even their parents want it more. So you just got to find that love for the sport and get in the spot where you just wake up every day and you're like, I want to ride my dirt bike. Like, don't turn yeah, it turns into a job, at my point, and I'm sure there's, like um guys that are even above my level. It turns into a job, but you still have to be able to look at it as like, this is what I want to do, so I love to do. And there's the saying, obviously, I'm sure everybody knows, if you never work a day in your life if you love what you're doing. So
Yeah, mate, still fueled by passion and drive and, determination to do the
exactly.
best you can. It's really cool. And so you wanted to touch on the SMX format. Obviously, Lawrence brothers doing really well, especially Jed obviously winning. Hunter sadly had the injury, and then Deegan winning it. Pretty cool, I guess. A guy you know pretty well, I'd imagine. But yeah, what did you think of the SMX format, and how good were the champions, mate? And it was pretty cool, the LA Coliseum, seeing that back in action too, wasn't
Yeah, I was waiting for the Deegan Ghost Ride.
it?
Nobody told him that on the pit board. Like, come on, man, Ghost Ride the whip.
It would have
But
been cool.
yeah, it would have kind of come full circle. But yeah, I think it was all new for a lot of the riders. Obviously, beforehand, they did not know what to expect. I know that Jet said he kind of missed his setup for the first round and had to do some changes. But to go from the first round to the second round was even more outdoors than the first round was. And then the third round was complete supercross. So with no whoops, obviously. But yeah, I think it's cool. It's something different, and it gets something for people to look forward to, because we all loved the Monster Cup. And even for me to go there and race it, like, I didn't know that they were going to have the 65, 85, and then the 250 futures at the final round. Um, maybe next year they could do, 4 rounds, or have, just a futures round or something like that. I think that would be cool. Honestly, the first round with the 65s, I enjoyed that so much. Like, it was so sick. Like, actually, the team I was on last year, there's a little kid, his name's Easton Grays. I think he got second maybe at the 65 one. And yeah, them kids just freaking send in the triple and the finish line and stuff like that. Like, it was sick. I think the Super Mini one is obviously elevated that level where the kids are like almost ready for the 250s. So they're gonna send everything they can, and they're not gonna be rolling jumps out there. And I think the jumps were a little big for them because of the power they had, and just everyone was casing the jumps and just endoing that dirt in Illinois is sticky. But yeah, it was super cool to see that, and I think it's definitely something to change the sport for the good, and keep everybody excited about the racing with not having Monster Cup anymore. But it's kind of like the new Monster Cup in a way. I mean, these guys just won so much money. I was just looking at the payout, and last place in the 450 class got like 30 grand. I was
There's a lot
like,
of cash in it.
yeah,
You're taking it, mate. That's
yeah.
for sure. And I was going to say, when you go back, obviously, to America in the off season, you'll probably be back before A1. But is there any little hopes to race A1 or anything like that, mate, to go and watch it? Or you'll probably be back on the grind in Europe, mate?
Yeah, well, there was some talk of that at the beginning of the season with Dixon.
Oh,
He
okay.
loves it, but we're not really sure yet. I don't think so. I had an opportunity actually to come to Australia and do the 3 rounds there, but that was either that or Nations, and
Okay.
it ended up just kind of not playing in the cards for this year. But so yeah, maybe next year I can come there and do the Australian Supercross rounds. Um, but yeah, for now, I'm just gonna honestly put all my efforts, all my cards in for GPs next year. I just really want to have a good season and put everything, all my effort towards it. And November and December is gonna be a grind. So Zacho said I have maybe a couple weeks where I can kind of chill out, maybe go to the lake a bit, hang out in Florida. But yeah, it's still. I mean, I probably will still ride most weeks when I get back until November, and then November, December, and back in Spain for January testing.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Good idea going to Spain, skip that England weather at that time of year,
Yeah,
mate. So you might be able to get back
yeah,
on those boats as well.
yeah, maybe right down there in Spain and Mallorca, dude.
No, awesome, mate. Sounds like you're having a great time. And yeah, I'd like to thank again for joining us, mate. It's been a ripper chat. And before we let you go, just anyone you wanted to thank in particular, you've touched on a lot of them before, but yeah, just anyone you'd like to shout out to and give the fans, I guess they probably already know, but where can they follow your stuff? Have you got some blogs coming up? Anything, giveaways coming out soon?
Yeah, obviously everyone that with the team and stuff, and Zach and his family, and obviously my parents, like I've said throughout the podcast. But yeah, I'd love to start a vlog. I've vlogged a lot this year, honestly, with the GoPro that Verb Moto supplied for me. But we never just kind of got to the point where it worked, and then I got injured. So, yeah, maybe we'll do a Euro vlog next year and kind of keep it up. And it's hard for me because I want to film and I want to edit everything, but I don't have the time. So it's like it's tough. I just got to get it figured out where I can film, send it to somebody, they edit it for me, post it to my socials, and just kind of keep it simple because I went through a couple weeks where I was focusing so much on vlogging and never sent anything out. And yeah. I was gonna do a nation shirt, so maybe we'll get a nation shirt, whether it's before or after, or, something, just something new for me, and maybe do some merch here soon. But nothing really in the cards yet. But yeah, tons of ideas. I'm sure tons of riders have all the same ideas with being that it's kind of how riders make extra cash. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, mate. You've got a couple of ventures you're doing as well, mate, which are pretty cool. Do you want to tell the fans about them too?
Yeah. So me and my mechanic, who's actually here now with me, flew in yesterday. We started a grip tape company with Zacho as well. And he's been doing it for a long time, ever since he started being a mechanic, and that kind of has just taken off, and a lot of teams are running it. Star's running it, Kenny's running it. PC's running the clear, and there's just actually a lot of teams in the GPs are now running it. So there's a lot of people, gaining some interest for it, and just kind of helps with the grip on the bike, and also to save the frame and graphics. So it's been cool, kind of like a little hobby of mine at the beginning. So I set up the website and everything, and help. We got a laser cutter to cut out tape. So yeah, it's been pretty sweet. And now my mechanic's back home running it when he's in Florida, or when he lives in Georgia. But yeah.
That's awesome, mate. And yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks again. And we'll just thank the sponsors in Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acerbis, AS3 Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, O'Neill, and of course, Even Strokes for all their incredible support, as without them, none of this would be possible. All right, Jack, cheers again, mate. All the best for the nations in the off season, and definitely look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, mate.